I'm not even sure how people lose weight anymore. I'm not even sure how I lost weight. It must have all been magic, right? Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Katie, and for those of you who don't know me, I used to weigh 360 pounds, and I've lost 180 pounds and kept it off for years now. And on this channel, we will discuss weight loss, weight maintenance, nonsense I see online about body positivity and fat acceptance, my experiences with all of that, and, well, anything else I feel like talking about. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, and let's get into today's video. So today, I have a TikTok from another new friend to the channel, as she goes by on social media, Dietitian Hannah. And she calls herself a non-diet dietitian, and she's got some thoughts on calorie deficits. So I figure we can go ahead and watch this together, and I'll give you my reactions along the way.
This part.
Okay, it says, I gave up on a, quote, calorie deficit, and I've never felt better because I'm actually eating enough.
The gym bros, the gym girlies, all of weight loss TikTok are so quick to just say, be in a calorie deficit, be in a calorie deficit.
Okay, and if you want to lose weight, you do need to be in a calorie deficit. That's just how it works. I mean, unless there's some other way that I am unaware of, please let me know down in the comments below. Go ahead and correct me if I am wrong. But you do need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. Now, I will definitely admit, not all calorie deficits are created equal. And at no point when I was losing weight did I ever cut my calories drastically. I never cut like 1,000 calories per day. I didn't go down to like 1,200 calories per day or anything like that. But I did go into a slight caloric deficit of about 100 to 200 calories per day. And by doing that consistently, then I was in a sustained caloric deficit. So at no point did I ever cut like a large amount out, but I had to do it consistently in order to lose weight. Yeah, I could imagine why weight loss TikTok would bring up a calorie deficit, because that is how you do have to lose weight. And I would just like to point out with this original comment that she is replying to, we don't have enough information to go off of here, like whatsoever. We have no clue where this individual is starting from. If they were eating in a caloric deficit and they were already underweight, that's a terrible idea. If they were already at a healthy weight and eating at a caloric deficit, I mean, I'd have to ask them why. If they're overweight or obese and eating in a caloric deficit, then I would have some questions as to what that caloric deficit actually looked like. So just this information alone is really not enough to go off of.
As if it's some like magical phenomenon, when it's really just another form of restriction.
Okay, wow, it's not magic, it's science. Your maintenance calories are what your body burns on a daily basis on average. And if you're eating above that, that's a caloric surplus. And if you're eating above that continually, you'll gain weight. And if you're eating below that, that's a caloric deficit. And if you're doing that consistently, you will lose weight. I mean, that's not magic, that's science. And again, not all caloric deficits are created equal, not even close. So yeah, if you're going to talk about an extreme caloric deficit, then yeah, I could understand using the word restriction. But if we're just talking about a slight caloric deficit, that is not restriction. That is literally how I lost 180 pounds. And at no point did I restrict myself, not even close. As a matter of fact, I made sure not to put anything off limits at all. The way that I did this was just literally leaving a bite or two of food left on my plate at every meal. And all of those bites of food eventually added up. That was it. That is not at all what she's describing here. And so, yeah, it's not magic, it's science. And a slight caloric deficit is not restriction.
Especially in the way that it's currently used and talked about. I mean, at its core, a calorie deficit is just when you eat less calories than your body burns.
Okay, yeah, I agree with her. She's just, again, defining what a caloric deficit is. So, yeah, I actually do agree with her on that, because that is exactly what it is. Okay, but let's see what else she has to say.
A lot of us probably are in a deficit from time to time, just naturally. And then we also have days where we're naturally in a surplus and it kind of balances out.
Okay, but is it balancing out? Is it really balancing out for everyone here? Because I know what the world looked like in the 1980s when I was growing up, and even through the 90s. And I have my eyes and I can look around, and I can see that we're getting fatter. As a country, as a society, we're getting fatter. And not even using my anecdotal evidence, I mean, we have plenty of statistics showing that we are getting fatter and fatter. So I don't think that the vast majority of us are finding that balance. I really, truly don't. It's not so simple as, well, some days you're in a deficit, some days you're in a surplus, and it's just going to balance out. Like, you can just throw our hands up in the air and pretend we have no control over it. That is literally not how it works, like, at all. And don't get me wrong, I understand that we will fluctuate from day to day. I understand, especially if you're female, you will fluctuate week to week. But throughout the month, you should balance. And at the end of the year, again, you should be balancing. But statistically, we're getting fatter. We're not finding that balance. We're getting fatter. So, yeah, I don't think a lot of people are finding that balance. And then the other thing is she is a dietitian. Now, I know she calls herself a non-diet dietitian, but surely she has seen people who have not found this balance, right? And I don't know, maybe this is just me and I'm just thinking out loud here, but I would think that if people are going and seeking out a dietitian, seeking out professional advice on what foods to eat and in what quantities to eat, that perhaps maybe some of those people are struggling finding that balance. I mean, really? I guess I'm just glad we didn't pay for that advice. That much I will definitely say. So, I mean, and this is the ironic part to me. If she is a dietitian and this is her profession, this is how she makes money, then why would anyone need to go to a dietitian? I mean, we're just going to balance out, right? Some days we'll be in a surplus, some days we'll be in a deficit, and it'll just all magically work out. But let's see what else she has to say.
But when a calorie deficit becomes a diet, which is what it's frequently being used for currently.
Okay, but what does she mean by the word diet? I mean, I'm sure I could make an educated guess based off the fact she calls herself a non-diet dietitian, but diet has multiple meanings. And yes, I did look it up right before filming just to make sure I didn't mess it up. And the first definition listed in the dictionary, which, I mean, I was always taught that is the most common usage. The first definition is the types of foods that people, animals, and communities habitually eat. And there are plenty of types of diets out there. You could have a vegan diet, a vegetarian diet, you could have a carnivore diet, you could have a keto diet, you could have a gluten-free diet. Myself, I have to follow a lactose-free diet as I'm lactose intolerant now. But you know who else has a diet? Everyone. Every single person has a diet. I have a diet, you have a diet, every single person. And you know who else has a diet? My cat. She has a diet. Her diet consists of her cat food. So yes, my cat's breath smells like cat food. But my cat, as with all cats, she's an obligate carnivore. She has to have meat in her diet. So I cannot put her on a vegan or a vegetarian diet, but that's just meaning the types of food that she eats. She needs to have meat in her diet. So yeah, everyone and every creature on this planet has a diet. And then the second definition, which is the one I'm sure she's probably meaning here, is going to be a meal plan where you limit the amount or types of foods that you're eating. And I gotta say, not all diets in that second definition are created equal either. I mean, yes, we have the cabbage soup diet.
Oh, my cabbages!
And yes, every time I mention the cabbage soup diet, I will play that clip. And yes, I'm always looking for a reason to use that clip. But that is definitely not on the same level as someone who maybe has celiac and has to go gluten-free for medical reasons. Or myself, I'm lactose intolerant now, so I have to avoid lactose. There's definitely a big difference between those, for sure. And so even within that second definition, there are multiple meanings of that definition. So when using the word diet, I find it incredibly crucial to be concise and direct with the meaning and what meaning we are using with that word. So when I talk about the 7 years that I was losing weight and being in a slight caloric deficit, that became my diet because that was the habits that I was sticking to. That was the way that I was eating habitually. That was my diet. But when we're talking about that second definition, and again, what I believe she is talking about, many times that's going to be Monday, this is what you eat. Tuesday, this is what you eat.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
With absolutely no deviation for what you are doing Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, for example. That's what that second definition is going to mean, a very strict meal plan. So I often find those of us who have lost weight and successfully done so, successfully kept it off, When we're talking about diet, we were talking about that first definition, what we are doing on a consistent day-to-day basis. But in her case, and often the case with body positivity and fat acceptance, when they are using the word diet, they are meaning that second definition, and in many cases, an extreme version of that second definition. So I find we need to be very clear when we are talking about diet, which definition we are using.
It is usually resulting in people not eating enough.
Yeah, and that's exactly what a caloric deficit is. You're eating slightly under your maintenance calories. That's it. And why did I do that? Because for many years, I was eating slightly above or way above my maintenance calories. I was eating in a surplus for many, many years. So after many, many years of eating in a surplus, I had a lot of stored energy on my body with all that fat. So by eating in a slight caloric deficit, my body was able to burn off that fat as energy. That's exactly how this works. So how does she expect people to lose weight without being in a caloric deficit? Genuinely curious about that, because all she keeps saying is, well, if you're eating in a caloric deficit, you're not eating enough. Yeah, she just keeps repeating the definition.
Just like any other diet. And then we get the same outcome of any other diet where we're not eating enough. Our biology takes over, our cravings take over, we binge, we feel super guilty about it, and we vow to go back into a deficit again.
Okay, so I do have a lot of thoughts on that section. So first off, what she is describing, it's called a binge restrict cycle. And that definitely can happen if you are going to extremes. If you are cutting calories way too low and then eating way too many calories and then feeling guilty about it and then feeling the need to cut your calories way back, yes, you can get into that cycle. But there is a middle ground where you can be in a slight caloric deficit and you are not going to those extremes. There is always that middle ground. And I do understand that there is an audience for her message. I really, truly do. But I don't feel she is clarifying this enough whatsoever. And then the other thing I definitely want to bring up, cravings. Because, I mean, who hasn't dealt with a craving, right? But here's the thing that I had to learn with cravings. If I am craving something, I have to really figure out why I'm craving it. Is it just something that I haven't had in a while and it's just sounding good? Maybe. Is it because I am not maybe eating enough throughout the day and then I'm getting really hungry at night, and then at night I'm just kind of wanting to eat a whole bunch of junk food? But also I might have a craving just because I'm bored. Maybe I'm over or understimulated and that can trigger a craving for me. Or maybe there's some emotional reason that I'm having that craving beyond just food. And so I really had to learn to kind of stop and take a moment and really understand that craving before I just rushed off to satisfy it. And then the other thing that I had to really kind of figure out is just because I have a craving for something, if I'm not hungry, I don't need to eat it. I can wait till I'm hungry and then eat the thing that I'm craving. And as a matter of fact, because I'm hungry and I was craving it, it'll probably taste better than if I'm just craving it and not hungry. And that's something I still try to remind myself all the time. Am I craving this because I'm actually hungry and need to eat? Or am I craving this just because it sounds good? And it'll still be there in a few hours when I'm hungry and then I can eat it. I don't have to satisfy that craving in that moment, because that is something I definitely had to come to terms with, because I've done this in the past. I would satisfy any craving at the moment that I had it. And once you have an addiction, you will stop at nothing to satisfy that craving. That's like literally what an addiction becomes, when you cannot stop yourself from satisfying that craving. It's not enough to just want it, but it's to know that you will stop at nothing until you get what you want. And I gotta admit, for myself, that got really deep. My issues with food got really deep there for a minute. And I mean, I don't know what else you'd call it when you're not paying your bills because you would rather have money to spend on food or going out to eat. And I'm not talking, oh, I need to buy groceries. No, these were extras. These were all extras. So let me kind of explain what I would do. Say, for example, I owed $300 on my electric bill, but I only had $200 to put towards it. Well, I mean, I don't have enough to pay for my electric bill, so I mean, I might as well just not pay it. And if I'm not paying it, now I have $200 to go towards food. And that was how I would justify things. A lot. I mean, it got so bad that at the height of it, I mean, why did I pick my electric bill? Oh, Yeah, that's right, because I got my electric shut off because I chose food. If that wasn't enough, I stopped paying a car payment because I chose food. Oh, that wasn't still enough? Let's go ahead and stop paying rent. That's right. At the height of this, I had my electric shut off, I had a car repossessed, and I lost my apartment. All due to food. Choosing food each and every single time, satisfying each and every single craving that popped in my head, whether or not I was hungry. It was bad. It was really bad. And it wasn't just getting my electric shut off, getting a car repossessed, and getting kicked out of an apartment that was bad, but also the shame, the guilt, and the embarrassment that all came along with it. I mean, I gotta be honest, it's been over 15 years, and it's still pretty embarrassing to admit that I got kicked out of an apartment because of my relationship with food, because I could not get a handle on it, because I allowed myself to satisfy every craving the moment I had it, without any pushback, without even trying to address the actual problems that I was having. I mean, it's been over 15 years, and I got to admit, it's still embarrassing to talk about. I mean, so might as well film it and put it all up on the internet, right? Having gone through that and knowing exactly what that means, but there is middle ground and balance, and it doesn't just happen naturally, but this is something you have to work towards. This is something you have to find out for yourself. This is something that may take a little trial and error. You have to find what works for you.
Starting the whole cycle all the way from step one. So while a calorie deficit is a neutral thing by definition, it's just something that happens.
Okay, it's not something that just happens. You're not just a tumbleweed blowing in the wind here. I mean, I know it's really nice to just throw our hands up in the air and go, wow, I have no control over everything, wee. But that's not accurate. It's not something that just happens. Just like the calorie surpluses. Those were a series of choices. Those were decisions that I made either consciously or subconsciously. And here's the thing, understanding and acknowledging my own agency in my weight gain allowed me to find my agency in my weight loss. I'm not a tumbleweed blowing in the wind. I do make my own decisions. I can make the best decisions for myself. And I don't just have to magically wait for some balance that's gonna happen. I can make my own balance. I can find my own way. And I'm not just a tumbleweed blowing in the wind.
Thermodynamics.
Ooh, thermodynamics? I thought that was the word we were not supposed to use. Because within body positivity or the anti-diet spaces, whatever you want to call them, I've heard that repeated over and over and over again that you're not supposed to use thermodynamics because our bodies aren't a closed system and that's not how the human body operates, things like that. I've definitely heard all of that. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I got some clips.
People become fat because they eat too much food. It's literally thermodynamics.
Okay, what about the thin people who eat upwards of 4,000 calories a day, don't work out at all? Why is thermodynamics not working for them?
Oh, they just got really lucky.
Oh, so you agree, thermodynamics doesn't account for all the complexities of the human body.
So the idea is that you consume fewer calories than you expend. And the theory is that as a result, you will turn fat into energy and you will lose weight. That theory is based on the first law of thermodynamics, which does not apply to the human body because it is not a closed system.
And so here she is admitting that it is thermodynamics. So if you're unfamiliar with the laws of thermodynamics, they're based upon the law of conservation of energy, which means energy can be neither created nor destroyed, but simply transformed. You cannot create energy, you cannot destroy energy, it simply transforms. So you can have electrical energy, chemical energy, potential energy, kinetic energy, heat energy. There are so many different types of energy, but you cannot create it, meaning calories do not appear out of thin air. You have to consume those calories. You have to consume that energy. And your body will take all of the energy that you are giving it through the food that you are consuming. It will transform that food into usable energy that you will then burn off through your day-to-day activities or that you are storing on your body through visceral fat. That is exactly how it works. So I am very glad that she finally admitted it is thermodynamics. It truly is. It is calories in, calories out. And again, a slight caloric deficit consistently over time will lead to weight loss. And that's why I just don't understand why it's so difficult for her to admit this. I mean, you can see she is very careful about the way that she is wording this. She is very purposefully picking which words she is using, but also leaving this very broad and not defining certain terms. Very curious to me. But yes, it is all thermodynamics. They are laws of science for a reason, because there aren't exceptions. If there were exceptions, they wouldn't be laws. Because at the end of the day, it does come down to thermodynamics. And I guess at least she did admit it, even if I don't think that was her actual intention.
The way that it's being used as a restrictive diet, that's where the problem is.
I'm genuinely curious if our new friend here has ever struggled with her weight. And I'm not talking on the mental side of things, but actually struggling with her weight as I did at 360 pounds, or maybe even 50 pounds or 100 pounds heavier. Has she ever struggled with that? Because I gotta admit, I find it rather disingenuous to give the advice to people of being anti-diet if she's never actually struggled with her weight. If she doesn't know what it actually is like to want to or need to lose weight. I really am curious about that, because just scrolling through her social media, it doesn't appear she ever has struggled with her weight, at least not like I did. That's for sure. So I do find it rather ironic that somebody who has never been in the position where I was would try to give somebody like me advice when they don't know at all what I was dealing with or what at all it felt like. So there we have it from our new friend, the anti-diet dietitian, where all caloric deficits will lead to restriction, and that will lead you to a worse spot than where you started. And evidently there is no middle ground or no balance whatsoever. And, well, quite frankly, based off of this TikTok that we just watched, I'm not even sure how people lose weight anymore. I'm not even sure how I lost weight. It must have all been magic, right? No, it's science. It's always science. She even said so herself. It's thermodynamics. It's calories in versus calories out. It always is. And believe me, I understand that it's nuanced. There are a lot of variables, and it is individualized to each person. And it can be very complex. Believe me, anyone who has taken college level physics or a thermodynamics class in college, yeah, it's very complex. And, well, solidarity, my hat's off to you. That was definitely rough. But it is science. It is thermodynamics. And it's not some magical balance where your body's automatically going to know, hey, I was in a deficit yesterday, so we'll be in a surplus today. No, it's something that we can work on. It's something that we can actually achieve. So no, it's not magic. It's science. So let me know down below, what do you think? Do you agree with our new friend here that our bodies will just magically find balance and we don't have to really work towards this? Or is it science and it's something that we can actually work towards to achieve? Let me know down below. I love reading all of your responses and I'm genuinely curious. That is where we will leave things today. I thank you so much for joining me. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye! Yes, we want to see your beautiful eyes. Can you believe she was in here the whole time I filmed? And she didn't knock over my camera once. Knock on wood, right? Bye!